Welcome back to another edition of Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers. 10-3. And maybe it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it to go against Washington, especially after the quick start out 14-0. But, Ben, it's still a win. And the Packers are 10-3. And they are actually in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. What do you think about that?
Whoa. Driver's seat. What do you mean? They're in number 2 seed.
They're in the number 2, but San Francisco.
And the 49ers, who they lost to, are number 1, so they have no chance.
But the 49ers have to play the Seahawks again, and they have to play the Rams still. So,
okay, well, they'd have to lose both those games for the Packers to get the number 1 seed.
I know, but I
think you're Looney Tunes if you think the Packers are getting the 1 seed.
Ooh, Looney Tunes. Bringing us back to the day.
Second.
Remember all the times Wile E. Coyote fell to a cloud of dust? That's what the
Packers' offense looked like in the second half. Oh, snap!
The snap-a-doodle. All right, hey, quick thing. Get this out real quick. I went back and listened to our show from last week, and I was disappointed. I almost gave myself a thumbs down for last week. And at first, I thought it was too much fart gun. But
it was too much, yes.
But then I kind of reevaluated, and I was like, it wasn't too much fart gun. It was just maybe a little bit too much of me trying to be funny. And, my kids have told me I'm not funny. Other people have told me I'm not funny, and they're right. I am not funny, but sometimes I can be a little funny. And it bothered me, and I'm going to be honest, because Ekis said, this isn't really us. Baloney, Ekis. I know this has been, maybe he's not cursing like he used to back when he lived with you and watched Packer games, but Ben's grown. He's older now. He's matured a little bit, at least, right? Is it a little bit?
No.
Okay, never mind.
No.
All right, he hasn't matured at all, but I'm going to say, and neither have I. But I do have to tell you that I was upset because I was sitting there watching the, I wasn't watching it, but I was listening. I put it on for Mom and Dad when they were visiting a couple of weeks ago. And we're sitting there listening with Dad, and I put the closed captions on for Dad. And if you haven't done YouTube closed captions, so it's pretty accurate, but there's definitely some things that are missed in there that really changes the context of what is said. So he was getting some of it, but not all of it. But there were parts where I thought it was pretty funny, and Mom's not really having much of a reaction. And then you do something, then she's laughing, ha, 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 and laughing at all the stuff you say. And I'm like, come on, really? I thought what I said was pretty good. And you got all the reactions from Mom. So, and she was sitting right in front of me. Like, you think at least she gave me a token laugh because it was something I said because I'm right there. But nope. And I love you, Mom. And don't feel bad about it. But I was a little bothered by that.
She's gonna now. Oh. Now she's going to laugh at everything you do for like the next month and a half.
And I won't even know if it's probably not even real. I can't tell. Dang it. All right, I'm cutting that all out. Never mind. Except this.
Okay, that's funny.
All right.
That was the funniest thing you've done.
All right. Fan of the week. Great transition. Fan of the week this week is Auntie Jody, or as she's known. Hey. Or as she's known on Twitter, Party Girl A Joe at Twitter. All right.
Really? Is that her name?
No, not at all.
Oh, you just made that up?
Yep, just made it up. I actually had a better makeup, and then I forgot it just as we approached the moment, and I totally blew it. So there you go. Again, why I should not be trying to be funny. Okay, here we go. Auntie Jody, though, has been with us since the start of Hafeman Brothers Talking Packers. We appreciate her listening and checking it out every week. And she made a comment. She listens every week, and she enjoys it. So that's what we're going for. We want you to enjoy it. We want to be truthful, and we're going to dig into this game. But thank you to Auntie Jody, our super fan of the week. Okay, Ben.
She has. I've seen her comments, and they're usually nice, and that is great.
I know.
Because it makes us feel good.
She's solid.
But sometimes she can be honest and tell us, hey, that was a little rough or whatever. But I'll take the good job, guys, and all that kind of stuff. It's always a good thing.
She says it's a fun show. She's entertained. What more do you want? Maybe a little less content, maybe a little more concise, but again, that's not one of our strong points. We just try to...
Well, it's going to be tough this week because in the Minnesota market, even though I do get free phone football, it's only the games that would be normally in my market. So luckily for me, I got work from 5 a.m. to noon this Sunday, and specifically to let me watch the Packer game. And the Packers weren't available here. I could only get the Viking game. So I took a nap. And then I turned on Tom Grassi's play-by-play on YouTube just to try to figure out what was going on.
He's not a professional play-by-play guy. That's for sure.
He's not the best, but to be honest, it's better than Nagler and Benke, because those two guys they just go like whoa,
that's because those guys are half in the bag when they start the game.
Yeah, I know.
They've already been drinking for 3 hours.
Right. Or at least Grassi's like, there was a incomplete pass to Graham or whatever.
You know what?
Notice I said that, incomplete pass to Graham. Or he'll be like, Aaron Jones running home. He's at the 30, he's at the 40, he's at the 50. 40-some yard run for Aaron Jones. I remember that play because that woke me up. I was like, what? And then of course they did a big deep passing play on first down, which was a miss. They ran the ball. Jones got stuffed. And then on third down, it was like a incomplete pass to somebody, and that awesome run by Aaron Jones led to nothing. But anyways, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about whatever you want to talk about, because I only saw the highlights.
So the game was they got off to a hot start, and everybody was excited. And, I mean, gosh, the first play, Jimmy Graham actually, had a big play and all that good stuff. So people were excited, right? And then it kind of, some people got disappointed with the last 2.5 quarters or so. So what do we take away from this game, Ben? It was not a great team they were playing, not a good offense, a team that really struggled to protect the quarterback. And the Packers had plenty of sacks and quite a bit of pressure, but then again, the defense still gave up some long drives, and the offense really just kind of sputtered out, even with a great performance by Aaron Jones. So what can we absorb, and what do we get from all this game? I don't really even know what to make of all of it yet.
They got a lot of good pressure on the quarterback, on defense. There was that one drive, and I was listening to that one. It was actually, I think, after the big Aaron Jones run, and then the 3 plays, and then they had a punt, and then I think the very next drive was when the Redskins just ran it up like every freaking play, and ran like 90-some yards and scored a touchdown, and they just ran all over them. And it was the same type of thing. I was watching the plays, a lot of those, and it was the same type of thing we were talking about last week, where there were runs to the outside or runs to a certain spot, and Blake Martinez is trying to weed through the traffic and get there, and he's just not getting there in time. The next thing you know, it's a big run.
And that's been a concern, right?
That we're seeing.
It's been a concern.
It's nothing. I don't know how they're going to fix it.
I mean, the big takeaway for the defense is this defense, when they do not get off the field on third down, they wear down. They had some 3-and-outs early in the game, and they can play the run pretty well until they start getting tired. And that's true with a lot of defenses. I get it. But this team, the issue is, again, covering the middle of the field. When you're playing a team like they just played, okay? And the Giants too. It's a rookie quarterback who, in this case, Haskins got injured and he was hobbling around. So a guy who couldn't move, he's a rookie. And where did they leave guys open? The easiest throws, right in the middle of the field. That seems to me that there is fundamental defensive strategy issues when you're consistently giving up middle of the field plays. It's not just man, it's zone issues, it's all of that. And when you're doing it against a rookie quarterbacks want to throw the easiest pass. They want to get the ball out of their hands, especially when they're hurt. And Haskins was hurt. He wanted to throw it over the middle, and that's where they kept leaving guys open. It was kind of that same old story, and I don't know how they're going to fare against really good quarterbacks if they can't fix that. Now, it worries me a little bit as a Packers fan.
Worries me a lot of bit.
If the pressure gets there in time and that quarterback doesn't have time to see that guy that's open, then it covers it up. You cannot have a good defense if the only thing that bails you out is when your defensive line gets pressure or a blitz gets home and takes the quarterback out. That can't be the only way you can play good pass defense, because sometimes they're not going to get there. And if you don't have the coverage to match it or to pick it up when you need to, you're not going to stop people consistently. And this team needs to be able to stop people more consistently and get off the field on third down. Yikes.
I would say the good news is they play the Bears this week.
Well, the Bears have been playing better.
Yes, the Bears as a whole have been playing better, but the Bears' offensive line is not the best. It's going to be interesting to see how the Packers handle the Bears at this point, because they're a much better offensive team, but they've got some injuries on the defense to some of their big guys.
Yeah,
Hicks
has been out, and that helps the Packers substantially because that's less push inside.
That could be different on as far as Packers offense against Bears defense. Maybe we'll get more than 10 points. That'd be great. We've also established, obviously, Aaron Jones at this point to be a monster. But as we've seen against San Diego, against San Francisco, they just don't want to use Aaron Jones sometimes. They just want to have him on the field for like a whole drive and a half. Even though it's obvious, he is the man. And he is what makes the offense go.
One thing I'll say is my prediction almost came true. Jay Sternberger, he was in the end zone on the first drive, and Aaron Rodgers threw a pass to him, and he didn't sit down, and so he had to reach back for it, and he couldn't quite haul it in. But I almost had my prediction come true. So there. I'm getting better at him. It was an almost. But Bob Tonyan got a touchdown, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that was a nice pass, a nice catch.
Yeah.
Jumped up, grabbed it, got his feet down. I don't even know if he even had to do that, but I hope MVS was watching.
I don't think he had any targets in this game. I don't think he got the ball thrown in one time.
Yeah, well.
I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get into that too much, but Aaron Jones was, he had over 8 yards per carry, so he was very productive. But the thing that happened in this game is the Packers were moving, and then they had really untimely setbacks. So they had stupid penalties, or they had, fumble. Rodgers gets stripped on that ridiculous play and whatever. And then other things, and it's like there's just dumb stuff.
Let's talk about it. All I know is I've been listening to folks this week since the game, seeing things on the tweeter, and all they're talking about is that Aaron Rodgers isn't throwing the ball on time. Aaron Rodgers is holding the ball too long. Aaron Rodgers is doing things that make no sense. And he's trying to make the big hero throw down the field instead of just taking what the defense gives you. Which is what I've been saying for how many, pretty much every Nathan Brothers Talking Packers. What that leads me to is 2 plays I want to talk about that have to do with Aaron Rodgers. First one is going to be his fumble that he had at the end of the second quarter. On the play, Rodgers he doesn't look anywhere but to Devontae. There's other guys in the patterns, but he doesn't care. He looks at Devontae, and Devontae has got a guy who is like a zone coverage. There's a guy deep behind him, and there's a guy kind of like right 5 yards off the line of scrimmage who's right in front of him. And Rodgers just looks over there, does a pump fake, almost loses the ball, makes the guy miss 2 or 3 times, and then looks back over there again, does another pump fake, and when he does that second pump fake, then the guy hits the ball and the ball comes out. If he would have looked over to the right, Kumaro was wide open on a 6-yard curl. So as soon as he looks over there and sees Devontae's double teamed, and there's no combination route over there, it's just Devontae one-on-one with 2 guys. Look back to the other side. It's not that hard. The next play I want to talk about is 3rd and 5. It's the third quarter. 7:05 left in the game, or 7:05 left in the third quarter. The reason why I'm bringing this up is this is the second week now that I'm going to talk about this. Aaron Rodgers has been in the league for how many years, Jason?
I think it's his 15th year.
15 years, right? He's been a starting quarterback for 12 years. He's been MVP of the league, twice?
Yep.
Should have been 4 times, but he's only been twice, but he should have been 4 times.
Should have been 3 for sure.
He's been MVP of the Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl. And I always thought nobody ever wants to blitz him because when you blitz Aaron Rodgers, he makes you pay. Remember how many times somebody would say that?
He used to.
During broadcast.
He used to.
And I thought that he did that. But last week, we saw Devontae jumping around and doing stuff. Or I mean, it was 2 weeks ago. And the blitz was coming. Devontae saw it. Rodgers never even looked over there. Didn't even look to see if the blitz was coming or anything. This week, on this play, it looks like it's going to be an all-out blitz because everybody's up around the line of scrimmage. Rodgers gets the ball. First of all, he doesn't survey the whole field before the snap. Devontae is on the left side of the formation, and he looks over there, and that's it. Again, on the right side is, I think it's like Lazard or somebody on the outside, and Aaron Jones is lined up in the slot. Doesn't look over there. Here's the thing that happens on the play. It wasn't all-out blitz. The defensive end lined up in front of Bakhtiari, backs out in his zone coverage. The middle linebacker backs out in his zone coverage. On the other side, the defensive end in front of Balaga and either a safety or another inside linebacker both blitz off that side. Two of the guys pretty much, one in the middle and one on the left side, both back off. But then two guys lined up in front of Balaga, both blitz on Balaga's side. And that's where Aaron Jones was lined up in the slot. So the guy who's standing in front of Aaron Jones, before the ball snapped, is even like he looks like he's coming. So, I mean, if Rodgers would have even looked over there, he would have saw, okay, Aaron Jones is there. There's nobody, like the guy who's in front of him, it looks like he's blitzing me. Not only that, the closest guy to Aaron Jones is a safety who's lined up 12, 13 yards off the ball or off the line of scrimmage. But Rodgers doesn't look over there. He looks to Devontae. And when he looks to Devontae's side and the Jimmy Graham side, he should have seen the defensive end and middle linebacker both back out, which means there's not a quick pass there on 3rd and 5 because those guys are taking up the passing lane. He's just missing stuff. He's missing things that like a third-year quarterback should see. You know what I mean?
So I have to ask, do you think this could be, so you remember the old Randy ratio? Do you think there's a Devontae ratio that they're trying to hit and that ends up actually making their offense not as good with Davante Adams there?
I don't think it's a thing where they're telling him to throw the ball to Devontae or they're telling him they got to get the ball to Devontae, though they say it a lot in the press conferences.
Yeah.
I just think he's purposely looking there. He's purposely trying to go there.
Right.
Or he's purposely waiting for the play to happen, which is bogged down plays. Like when it's 1st and 10 and he's holding there, waiting for the guy to get open when there's an easy checkout or just dump it off to the running back.
Mm-hmm.
That first drive, there's a couple plays that were awesome. He just dumped it off to Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones gets the first down, like when they were inside the red zone. And then the next play, Aaron Jones gets the touchdown run. There was no hesitation. He went back, he looked downfield, dumped it off to Aaron Jones. It's maddening to me that a guy who's been around for that long, first of all, is forcing things to people. Secondly, can't read when a blitz is coming.
The thing about Davante Adams is, yes, everyone talks about his release and stuff and all that, but because he jukes almost on every route, because he'll do that juke at the line of scrimmage almost on every single route, so it takes him longer to get into his route than a player who's just running off the line of scrimmage automatically. So if you're looking for him, it's gonna take a little bit longer for him to get open than most guys, even though he might get open more consistently. And
I agree.
And if Rodgers is looking for him and waiting for him to get open, then yeah, I see. Therein lies the problem. And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe that's the whole rationale and whole reasoning behind the difference in the offense when Davante Adams came back to when he wasn't in the game. And I know they talked.
I think Devontae, he just should not be the first option on any play, which sounds weird. But what you just said makes perfect sense. Because it's true. He is a juke you out of your shorts, get off the line of scrimmage kind of guy.
There's obviously too much going on between the play call and getting lined up and evaluating the defense that they're always running the play clock down. There's obviously too much to work through to get the actual play run. I don't think it's a problem with LaFleur making a decision on what play he wants to call, but maybe it's communicating the play and then communicating the play to the players and then having enough time. Maybe they're just not getting themselves in gear quick enough to get up to the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of things happening there, but it seems like it's too much because you watch all these other teams play and you watch teams playing against the Packers, and maybe a handful of times in the game they're getting the play clock down to under 5 seconds, but the Packers consistently do it.
There was a game I did get to see. It was the Seahawks against the Rams. And the Rams would get their play in the huddle, right? And they'd come out of the huddle, walk right up to the line of scrimmage, get set, and snap the ball and goal. And the Seahawks weren't even ready. Like, their defense was like, looked like the Packers, where they're all like looking at each other and goof, like sometimes that happens with the Packers lately. And the Rams just schooled them. They were getting like 8 yards. Like, they just handed off to Gurley's run for 8 yards for a quick pass to somebody because the guys weren't looking at him. Do some of that stuff once in a while instead of waiting until the very end all the time. And it's obvious you're not looking at the defense because you didn't notice the blitz. So that's not helping you. So maybe the fast tempo can help you. The Rams beat the Seahawks the other day because of exactly what they were doing. Their offense was efficient and fast, and they didn't mess around.
It's a fair point because a lot of times, too, with the defensive secondary calls, they see how the offense is lining up, and then they're communicating to each other about some adjustments or some checks or making sure they know what they're doing. And if you're snapping the ball while they're trying to get that communication across, you might catch them in a blown coverage, right? But you don't catch them in a blown coverage if you're giving them all that time to see what you're doing and then figure out what they're doing. It's not always about finding the exact perfect adjustment. Sometimes it's about getting the other team to screw up.
We got to start being more positive here because this is a whole lot of negative going on.
Oh, here, I got one for you.
What?
That same guy, Aaron Rodgers, who didn't see the blitz, who underthrew some passes, who gets the play clock down to almost 0 all the time, came up with one hell of a play exactly when the Packers needed it. There was 8 minutes and 20-some seconds to go in the game. It was a one-score game. The Packers just had a terrible, blown assignment by Brian Bulaga and Billy Turner, and nobody blocked like 3 guys on first down, and then Aaron Rodgers gets sacked. And then second down play doesn't do anything, and it's 3rd and 13 or 14 out of his own end zone. And he calls the formation wrong, which he said after the game, but still managed to find Aaron Jones for the play of the game and an incredible throw and great catch and the conversion that then allowed the Packers to take a very long drive down the field and basically ice the game. That was an amazing play because you look at that pass and where it had to be. Like Aaron Rodgers said after the game, he didn't think it was even that great of a throw or anything, but he thought Aaron Jones had a great catch. And I'm like, that pass was awesome because the linebacker's dropping back and he's got to get it in this window. The safety's coming over. I mean, there was not much room there to fit it in there, and he got it in perfect, and Jones hung on to it. The other point I'm going to make that was awesome is the blocking of the guys who their main job or what you would think of would be their main job would be receiving and catching the ball. We had some amazing blocks from Jake Kummerow, Alan Lazard, Jace Sternberger. Jace Sternberger had to block defensive ends on a lot of these running plays where Aaron Jones got sprung for big plays. Mercedes Lewis, of course, he's a good blocker. Jimmy Graham did, again, better at blocking than he was at catching again, even though he had some bigger catches in the game. But those guys all made significant contributions blocking, which helped the run game be as productive as it was. If you watch football and you don't look at some of that, go back even just look through the highlights and look at where those receivers and those tight ends are lined up on the plays and just watch them. Watch the blocks they're getting. Receivers don't often do that. And guys that are focused on their main job, catching the ball, they usually don't block like that. And these guys have all bought into it because this is what this offense calls for, and they're doing it. They are doing a heck of a job, and that's probably the main and primary reason that Marquez Valdez-Scantling is no longer really involved in the offense too much because he doesn't block the way those guys block.
Yep.
You saw Kummerow's block on one of Aaron Jones' long runs? Man.
Yep, that was awesome.
He buried the guy. It was like Landon Collins, I think, a big safety, and he just went at him. He just, boom, just plowed in there.
And Aaron Jones just went straight up the middle and then took off to the right a little bit, then he was gone.
I harness the power,
awesome.
the spirit of John Madden there, right? With a boom or what? I don't know what I'm doing. But
What about Adrain Amos? He was awesome.
he was very good. Amos was good.
Interceptions.
Zadarius was quite good again.
Yeah, Kenny Clark was in there. Backfield a lot.
Kenny Clark was flashing because a lot of times he was single blocked, and you single block Kenny Clark.
Dumb move by the Redskins.
Yeah, you single block Kenny Clark, and he is going to make he's going to beat a lot of people. Preston was solid, but Zadarius Smith, man, God, there were plays where they had like 3 guys blocking him. Everybody else is single block, and like 3 guys trying to block him. That guy is, man, he's a difference maker. Did you know, Ben? I don't know what it is after this week, but did you know that up through last week's game, Zadarius Smith leads the league in quarterback hits?
I believe it.
Leads the whole NFL in quarterback hits. And they asked him and Preston Smith about that in their interview together, and he thought, oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, whatever. And then they're like, would you rather have the hits or the sacks? And they kind of looked at each other, And of course, they'd rather have the sacks. I mean, they want the sack numbers, but the quarterback hits is a pretty big deal, and that does affect the quarterback.
I'll say this: there's been a lot of good contributions, and I mean, let's face it, dude. The team is 10-3.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. 10-3, out of all these little things that are really bugging us, like, and yeah, if they have to play these big time, like if they have to play 49ers or whoever, they're going to be in trouble. But at this point, they're doing just enough to win these games.
Playing against some of these bigger teams, like they had this type of performance. If they play against a really good team, they would have got, would they get destroyed playing like this? That's the unbelievable thing about the NFL is you don't know. Every game is different, and every week is different, and the Packers could beat anybody, and they could lose to anybody, and that's exactly the way this league is. So, yes, do they need to play better? Should they play better? Yes. But could they still play like this and find a way to beat any team? Yes. Because you don't know how that other team's going to play that week. Maybe they're going to turn the ball over. Maybe they're going to do something dumb. I mean, and you don't know. So you got at 10-3, the Packers, what we know is they're in a great position. They've got 3 division games to close the season, starting with the Bears. And so they control everything right now. The only thing they don't control is the number 1 seed, but they could have a first-round bye for sure. Those West teams are going to beat up on each other. Potentially the 49ers could lose to the Seahawks and the Rams. And if they do, the Packers, if they win out, they got a chance to be the number 1 seed. All right, I want to bring people's attention to a couple of different things. Now, 2 of them are Packer-related, and 1 is not. But if you listen this long, then you might enjoy some, checking out some other things. One thing was, if you hadn't seen it yet, Aaron Rodgers did a sit-down conversation with Justin Vernon, who's this guy from Eau Claire, who now is this big, his big musical success. And anyway, whether you like the guy's music or not, or the band's music or not, is a really kind of interesting conversation between the 2 of them talking about a lot of different things, and pretty real conversation, and it was pretty cool. It's long. They also mention Eau Claire in there and talk a little bit about that, because back in 2006, I think Rodgers might have been on the tailgate tour or something. He was in Eau Claire for some reason in his between his first and second season. And he went to the Pickle, formerly the Nasty Habit at that point, and some other places on Water Street. So they got into a little bit about that because Vernon's from Eau Claire and still goes back there and still kind of resides there. But it's available on YouTube. Another thing that was out there that just happened was that you and I were talking a little bit before about a couple of recent Mike McCarthy interviews. One happened just today where he sat down it's available on ESPN Wisconsin, is Willie and Tausch, their radio show, which was pretty funny because Mike McCarthy is still Mike McCarthy, so he still answers things pretty honestly for the most part. And there was one point where I think Mark Tauscher had Jason Wilde not talk, and he just kind of took up the conversation. They had questions from different people, whatever. They asked McCarthy a couple of really interesting questions from some of the fans, and he gave some good answers. And then one they asked about, and then this might have been Mark Tauscher asking, but he's like, did you ever get tired of Jason Wilde asking you questions about this or that or whatever. And then Mike McCarthy's response was awesome because he's like, yeah, actually the most difficult part was first I heard was all the opinions in the question and then the multiple questions within the question. And I'm sitting here thinking while he's talking, well, do I answer this question first or that question, or which question am I supposed to answer, or am I supposed to address one of these opinions that he just gave me, or I don't know what to do with this. And that's one of the reasons why he got so annoyed with Jason Wilde all the time, because that is pretty much the way he asks questions. So that was pretty funny. Anyway, so those things are on demand and available and pretty cool. And, you know, we've all had our issues with Mike McCarthy over the years, but in the end, like I've said before, regardless of what you thought about his play calling, his in-game decisions, all these other things, which I at times had problems with too, he is still a guy that turned the Packers around in a different way. You know, he took the team that had some success and turned them into a consistent winner, and a lot of that had to do with his leadership and his mentality about taking care of the football on offense, which was a change from the Favre era, and there's no denying that. And also, not just taking care of the football, but getting the football, attacking the football, and trying to force turnovers. And I give him credit for that. He's also the guy that dealt with a really difficult situation in 2008 with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and trying to make that transition and dealing with the fan base and the organization and all of it. And he had to make that call. There's all kinds of information based on that. We could do a whole show on that if we wanted. But he's the one that was in the middle of that and worked through that process, won the Super Bowl in 2010. And on top of it, he did a lot of stuff to give back to the state of Wisconsin. You know, he's always involved in the American Family Children's Hospital event, did a bunch of stuff in Green Bay. And if you listen to his interview, you get even a good feel for him now that he's in a little more relaxed mode and not head coach of the Green Bay Packers. You know, a pretty decent guy to have as your coach for that long time, regardless of some of those other things that maybe, you know, a lot of us had issue with. So it's certainly worth checking out and listening to.
Yeah, I actually was watching NFL Network had a piece on him yesterday, just showing him he's like Jim Haslett and him and a couple other coaches are already going through playbooks and stats and what are certain teams doing, what are other teams doing, what seems to be, you know, the up-and-coming thing in the league. And they're looking at game film, and they're looking at all these different things already now, and even though they're not coaches. It's almost like John Gruden's fired football coaches of America that he had a couple of years back before he got back with the Raiders again, where McCarthy is now looking over things, and it looks like he's really gung-ho about getting a job this next year with a team. I personally was hoping, I mean, I hate to say it, but I was kind of hoping that the Steelers were going to tank this year and they'd move on from Mike Tomlin because McCarthy's a Pittsburgh native, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to have him. He seemed like a perfect fit for Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
But let's face it, Mike Tomlin's done an excellent job coaching this year. He's turned the Steelers all completely 100% around, and there's no way he's leaving. So if McCarthy wants a job next year, it's probably going to be like maybe Carolina.
You gotta feel the Browns are in play, right?
The Browns, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
They're having a disastrous season.
They're having a bad year. That's the thing. They need somebody like McCarthy there.
Right.
Who can just come in and be like, listen, this is the rules. This is how we're going to do things. Listen to what I say. He's got the experience. He's got the knowledge. We had our issues with him with his one-on-one matchups and doing the same things all the time.
You know what? At the Browns, though, you got Beckham. You got some talent that guys can win their one-on-one matchups, right?
I was like, yeah. I mean, it looks like the 2010 type Packer team with a young hot quarterback, some receivers that can get open. Their offensive line's pretty rough there at the Browns, but their defense is really good, and they got a top running back at Chubb. So I mean, you know, the Browns have a good team, and at least all the pieces are there. Their offensive line's a little shaky, but I mean, I could see him going there after. It's one of those things like the Browns, they had to give Kitchens the job. Like they had to, because if they wouldn't have, and he would have gone somewhere else, and then they would have not done as well, or they would have had this season like they have now, everybody would have been like, "Wow, we should have got Kitchens." But the fact that they gave Kitchens a job, it's been a rough year. It's going to prove the fact that they need a guy there who's going to be a little more have a handle on things. Right now, Kitchens doesn't seem to have that handle. The other thing is a lot of people are thinking Jason Garrett's going to be gone no matter what, unless the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl. He's going to be out of there.
Ooh, I can't see McCarthy dealing with Jerry Jones, though.
I could.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If he could deal with Ted Thompson and, the draft picks that Ted Thompson had for years, think of what he could do with the talent that the actually Cowboys have. He'd be fine.
I suppose.
He's not a.
I couldn't
McCarthy's
deal with
not
Jerry
a rah
Jones.
rah. Yeah, I couldn't deal with him either. But McCarthy's not a rah rah type guy. Like he doesn't want the spotlight. He can let Jerry Jones have the spotlight. Let me coach. I mean, I could see McCarthy going to Dallas and freaking. He'd be awesome down there if you ask me. But I think that he's a good guy. When you watch this interview with the NFL Network, he when it gets close to the end of it, they ask him, the questions like you're relaxed more now. It seems like you're doing things. You don't have to have all the worries of being a head coach on your shoulders and this and that. And he's like, why do you want to? Why do you need to get back into football now? And McCarthy starts tearing up a little bit, and he's like, yeah, and he tries to say stuff, but he can't say stuff, and then he's like, my family needs it. We need a new start. And he was he could barely get those words out. So this whole situation with the Packers, him getting let go last year, and the fact that he's still living in Green Bay and he's got 2 young kids that are in school in Green Bay, it's probably something that's really affected him and his family. And then now to be living in that city, and the team that let you go is now 10-3, the number 2 seed in the league. And yeah, a couple things have changed, but let's face it, he's not there, and they're doing better than they did the last 2 years. And that's got to be something that's really hitting them hard. And it was tough to watch. It's kind of like what you said last week or a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, about Corey Linsley. We're like, you really wanted to let Corey Linsley have it, but you watched the press conference after the game, and you're like, man, I can't let him have it.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Like I've been all over Mike McCarthy for years and years about play calling, the decisions on things, the fact that they don't really ever game plan for specific teams. They just kind of run their thing. But let's face it, the guy was a very good head coach. He knew how to run a team. He knew how to run an organization. He had a good system for the most part. He was a decent play caller for a lot of the time. Maybe McCarthy's like, you know what? I want another shot somewhere where I can, mold a guy or work with a guy and make him a success, just like I worked with Aaron Rodgers and made him a success. Because before Rodgers had McCarthy, his throwing motion was kind of wacky, right? Because he had the Tedford method, which was hold the ball up by your ear and, all that kind of weird stuff. And McCarthy spent a long time working with Rodgers on footwork and placements. And during this piece, he was showing tapes, and he was, their film about things, and they're talking to him about, how he develops quarterbacks and this and that. And he was like, it all starts right here. And he's like, I use this tape of Joe Montana, and this is what I try to show everybody. Look at his feet. Look at that footwork of Montana. And he's just going on and on about Montana's footwork and how the pass is perfect, and it has nothing to do with his upper body. It's all about his feet and this and that. And then he showed Aaron Rodgers, and he's like, this is Aaron Rodgers' first practice with me. And he's like, and then he showed another one. He's like, here's Rodgers just 2 weeks later. Look how different that is already, and how much more consistent he is after just 2 weeks of working with me. And you don't realize that stuff. You know what I mean?
Maybe that's who Baker Mayfield needs, man.
Yeah, So it's one of those things where it's like, he did take Rodgers, and he did turn him around, and Rodgers is awesome, but maybe he wouldn't have been as awesome if he would not have had McCarthy there to help him out right from the start. Brett Favre's best years were with McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his year with the Vikings was pretty dang good too.
Well, but that was revenge year. I mean, he was motivated because look at the year with the Jets where he didn't have all that motivation.
Yeah.
It was,
Well, he was good for the first couple games, and then he kind of tanked it at the end there. But
still the greatest thing ever. Sorry, is that Brett Favre's last pass with all of his teams that he retired with was an interception. That's the greatest thing ever. So fitting. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
It's really sad, dude. It's really sad. But anyways, yeah. So I would just, it's interesting to see this stuff, and you know, you got to remember, like when we're saying all these things about Aaron Rodgers and how we're getting upset with him not reading the blitz and not taking the check down or not doing the, you know, whatever. These are all guys. They're all people just like us. They all want to succeed. They all want to do the right thing. They all want to be as successful as possible. And when it doesn't happen, you know, you don't want to see anybody crushed or destroyed or anything like that. And McCarthy was a great coach. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. He was a winner for years and years and years and years. One of the second longest consecutive playoff streak in NFL history, just after Belichick. I only wish the guy well and hope that he can continue on. But if you ask me, I think Matt LaFleur is just what the Packers needed at this point. They needed a kind of a spring and a step. And him, along with the Smith brothers, have kind of changed the culture and made it a little bit more like a team environment. And anywhere you go, you kind of get sick of being there, or things get bogged down. And that happens to you. So if you see McCarthy, you live in Green Bay, around there, and I'm sure people are nice to him and whatever, but it's just, if Brett Favre and Mike Holmgren and all these guys have got streaks after one Super Bowl, and they can be held at such a high pedestal, McCarthy should be able to be held as just a high pedestal. Because he actually had more winning seasons for the Packers than Holmgren ever did, because he was there way longer. He should get his due, and I hope that in time it'll be the same as Favre, where, you know, there's a time there where you're like, wow, is Favre ever come back? Are the fans ever going to want to see him again? And sure enough, he comes back. Everybody loves him again. And I'm sure McCarthy will get the same treatment. Everybody will remember the Super Bowl and the success he had and all that kind of stuff.
And in 2010, that was not an easy year. I mean, he held that team together. They had all those injuries. They had ups and downs. They played like crap for a while. I mean, that was a good coaching job. And, you know, he needs credit for that. All right. I got one more thing for you. Then we got to wrap it up, I think. Have you ever heard of the YouTube channel Lost in Vegas?
Yes.
You have?
I watch those guys all the time.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah, I watch them all the time. Those guys are awesome.
I never watched them, but I was on YouTube, and then I was kind of coming across something, and I'm like, and it was Alice in Chains, Them Bones. I'm like, you know, reaction to Them Bones or whatever. So this YouTube channel is definitely worth checking out. I want you to check out this video specifically, though. It was insane. Have you seen the Alice in Chains ones?
Yeah, I've seen them all.
God dang it. Here I thought I was going to give you something new, and you've seen it all. All right, so maybe you...
I like those guys.
Maybe you who are listening haven't seen it. But anyway, so Ben and I grew up in the 90s. Alice in Chains was a revolutionary band. I understand they weren't as popular as Pearl Jam and Nirvana and blah, 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 but they were the best. They were the best band, not just to come out of Seattle, but one of the best rock bands of all time. And anyway, there's these guys, Lost in Vegas is their YouTube channel, and they listen to songs and they react. So it's reaction to that. And I think they grew up as hip-hop guys or something, because they've never heard any of these songs that they're finally listening to. So and they're about our age. They're in their early 40s or something like that.
Yeah, they also like Tool a lot too.
Okay, well then you really like
they're smart guys.
But so they know nothing about this music. They never heard it before. So picture, and if you haven't listened to the songs or you haven't seen this, watch the videos, listen to the songs, see what they say. They're funny, they're entertaining, they have good takes on stuff, but at the same time, it's very different because they come from like a hip hop background, or, you know, they're both black guys, and it's more like they listen to R&B and hip hop and stuff like that as kids growing up, and that's what they did. So this music and musical style is all new to them as well. Anyway, I first saw the Them Bones one, and then I went back to watch the Rooster one, because they said they totally freaked out about Rooster, their reaction to the Alice in Chains Rooster song. And then they did like a Man in the Box, and then they also did a Wood, but that's not available on YouTube. It's only on a paid subscription, because they're big enough now. They got Patreon and all this stuff. You can pay to see extra videos, all that. And apparently Wood was probably they liked that one the best, or close to the best. In my opinion, Wood, a top 5 song of all time. I think it's the best Alice in Chains song ever, and not just their song, but it's way better than almost every other rock song I've ever heard in my life.
They also did a reaction to Love Hate Love live. That was one of their first Alice in Chains ones.
Right, which is a crazy song to react to because it's very dark and messed up and slow and like Lane kills it, but you're like, wow, this isn't a catchy song or like a
I mean, I hated Love Hate Love the first like 700 times I heard it. It wasn't until like 701st time when I just listened to Lane's vocals and I was like, holy mackerel, this guy is insane. But,
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, they listen to them Bones, and it's awesome. Like their reaction to it is crazy. It's great. And then I went back and watched the Rooster one. So Lost in Vegas. And the one thing I want to think about is I was trying to put myself in their position. I'm like, okay, because I've heard these songs thousands of times. But I'm like, what if I was them? I'm like 40 years on this earth, and I'm hearing this music for the first time ever, and it would blow me away too. So anyway, Lost in Vegas, definitely worth checking it out. See if you can find some songs that you like and see how they react to them. But if you don't like Alice in Chains songs, you should listen to it and listen to what they say, because these are two guys that this is not their style. This was not their genre. This is nothing they ever really got into. And here they're appreciating this music for what it is, which is some kick-ass music. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, the thing I like about it is it actually makes me appreciate it again, too. That's why I like checking their stuff out every now and again, because they get so excited about it, then it gets me excited about the song again, and then I listen to like those songs a couple times over and over, and I go back and I listen to some things that I haven't listened to in a while and be like, yeah, those were really awesome. And when you're growing up, I didn't, I mean, I knew I liked Alice in Chains. I don't know why I liked them so much compared to, Pearl Jam and Nirvana, and I didn't like Nirvana at all, but I didn't know why I really liked them. But when you see these guys react to it, and you're like, yeah, that's the reason why. Because it's cool. I mean, because Lane kicks butt, and Jerry writes great songs, and it's got great melodies, and
drumming
different, and Sean Kinney's drums are awesome, and like no two songs are really the same. It got me excited to listen to that stuff again too. So it's cool. Sometimes you see these things, and like I've seen a couple other ones where there's like vocal, because I was a vocal major in college for years and years and years, and so I'll see these people on YouTube and they do they're vocal majors or they're vocal instructors, and they'll do critiques on popular artists singing from the 90s or whatever, and they'll say things, and I'm watching them, and they'll say something about Lane Staley. Like they had one about Lane Staley when like they did Love Hate Love, and they were like, holy cow, like this is crazy. And then they'll do one for like Kurt Cobain, and they'll say the same stuff, and I'm like, no. You can't compare Kurt Cobain to Lane Staley.
That's true.
So that's when I know that some of those people, they just say that because they want the views and they want the likes and they want, you know what I'm saying?
Because people are already checking that out because they like that band or they like that song.
Right, yeah, because they already see it, and that's why. But these two guys, the Las Vegas guys, they're just honest. They're just like, hey, this is how I feel about it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't like it. Usually, if it's a Tool song or an Alice in Chains song, they're all over it. They love it most of the time. So they understand. They get it.
I think
sometimes they don't even know why they like it.
Right.
They just like it.
Well, and for you and me too, like we obviously the content of a lot of the Alice in Chains songs is never anything we resonate with, or it's not like we love it
not
because
at all.
Of what they're singing about. It's not the context of the song. It's the sound of it. It's the way they perform it. It's the emotion and the feel of it and all that. Like everything that's all the pieces to it, aside from what they're actually singing about. And I know that's kind of sounds weird, right? Because a lot of people listen to music and they want to know what are they really singing about here, and what is it, what does that mean, and blah blah blah. And that's, I mean, a lot of their songs are about the drug addiction that Lane Staley struggled with for however long, because he wrote a lot of the lyrics, right? And that's what was obviously tormenting him and torturing him through most of his adult life. And so that was the context of a lot of his songs. But so that has another, that resonates with you and I in no way at all. But the music's so incredible, and the emotion in those songs is so incredible, and the connection to them, and that's what makes them great. So anyway, you hope
but
that
the problem is that Alice in Chains and Jerry Cantrell are huge Seattle Seahawks fans. So that makes them mad. This is the Packers podcast. What are we doing talking about Alice in Chains?
But Jerry Cantrell is also a big fantasy football guy.
He is a huge fantasy football guy.
Yeah.
Yes, every year they do a Alice in Chains fantasy football draft, and every year they do Alice in Chains fantasy football auction, where you can buy on eBay, where you can bid for things on eBay for Alice in Chains and merchandise, and you'll get other guys from other bands to donate things, autographed guitars and whatever, and it's all part of this big donation that they give out, and it's part of their fantasy football thing they do every August. It's actually pretty cool.
That is cool. And you know what? You and I also donate to fantasy football every year because we don't win.
Yeah, because I never win, so my money must be going somewhere.
Oh, man. No, but I thought that was so awesome. It just was unique and fun. The one thing I would say to you, though, that I wanted to mention is I think the Lost in Vegas guys would get Countervoid, dude. I don't know if you could ever get him to check out one of your songs, but that would be pretty sweet. Because I
don't know, maybe.
I think they would get it. I think they'd be down with it.
Some of the stuff, probably not.
Well, yeah, not all of it, but
everybody's, the same thing as me. The stuff we do with the Countervoid stuff is just, it's whatever we're feeling. It's not, we do all different styles, and sometimes you're going to like it, sometimes you're not. I like them all, but that's just because I like to do different things, and I like to listen to different things. So, hey, whatever. But right now we're talking about the Packers, bro. 10-3. Packers.
10-3.
Playing the Bears.
Here we go. We got to do it.
Week.
Ready? The one thing I noticed with Trubisky that they were doing, Ben, is they were still letting him throw a lot of passes, but they were moving him. He was on the move a lot more. So he's only reading half the field then for the most part. And usually there are different options, different levels. There's a short guy, there's an intermediate, and there's a long. And one of those guys most of the time is open.
The other thing it does is it helps the offensive line then. Because if they're moving him out, it takes the pressure off the offensive line because they don't have to, it's the same thing we talked about with the Packers going up against the 49ers and other teams like that, where if they can roll out or move Rodgers over and, kind of only have to block half the guys, that helps him, give him a little more time. Trubisky's going to have more time because the Bears are doing that now. The other thing it's a little scary when you look at the Bears is they're throwing the ball downfield now, where it seemed like all of last year and the beginning of this year, Nagy would not let Trubisky throw the ball further than 5 yards. Or Trubisky was too afraid to do it, or whatever. I don't know. It happened last year in that big comeback win. The same thing happened in the first game of the year this year. The Packers didn't even cover anything deeper than 20 yards because they were like, who cares? You're not going to throw the ball down that way. But now the Bears are doing that. Because when you roll out Trubisky, it gives the receivers more time to get downfield too. So you got to be really worried about that. Look out for Cohen running around out of the backfield. Montgomery's having a good year at running back for the Bears. He's kind of been coming on lately again. The wide receivers are hit or miss, but they're big play guys. They're big guys, and if they catch the ball, they're usually going to make a big play on it. So their offense is definitely a lot more potent than it was back in the first week of the year when they only scored 3 points. And the Packers defense, they've got to keep the pressure coming on the defensive line. Secondary, stay in your assignment, because Trubisky is still, he'll still throw a couple to you every now and again. So they got a little bit more of a hard task than it was earlier in the year.
Longest standing rivalry in the history of the NFL and blah, 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 all that awesome stuff that goes down to it. So enjoy the Packer game coming up against the Bears. It's going to be more enjoyable. That's my one prediction. It's going to be more enjoyable than last week's game. You got a prediction?
And more enjoyable than week 1.
Yes. Do you have a score? Ekis wants a score prediction. Give us one, Ben.
32-24.
24? The Bears are going to score 24?
Packers are going to win. Yeah, the Bears are going to score 24. Yes.
Dang.
They're actually moving the ball and doing well. And the Packers are going to figure it out. And they're going to score 32 points.
That would be sweet going into a big matchup against the Vikings. Got to handle the Bears first. All right, brother. We'll catch you next week. Go Packers.